الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على محمد. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون؟ صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. This week I personally lost a very close friend of mine, and indeed a man who served Ahlul Bayt all his life, a man who was dedicated to the cause of Ahlul Bayt in every possible way that a man can be dedicated, and indeed a man who had served the message of Ahlul Bayt throughout the world, reciting in countries such as India, all around the United States, and indeed in many parts of Europe. And indeed a man who, from his life, many lessons can be learnt and really many examples can be derived. An exemplar for each and every one of us in the way he sacrificed all his life towards the message of Allah, the message of his Prophet, and the message of the Imams. And indeed, Haj Murtaza Laka is a man who I'm sure you'll all agree you've learnt a major lesson or two in your life from, on many different areas on the religion of Islam, be it Islamic history, be it issues of Islamic theology, be it issues of Islamic ethics. And indeed, it wasn't just a man who spoke from the pulpit, but he was a man in every true sense of the word, in terms of his manners, in terms of his ethics, in terms of the way that he dealt with people. And that he was an inspiration not only to myself, but I'm sure to many of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world. That each and every one of us can claim to have learnt an important message from his life, and indeed from his principles, and indeed the way he interacted with many members of the Muslim community worldwide. It was indeed a shock for me to have heard about the stroke while I was reciting my Fatimiyya Majalis, and then suddenly the next day to have heard about his death, and even more sad for me that I was not able to be at the janazah which took place at Stanmore. But indeed I thought tonight would be a tribute towards him, from the lessons that I may have learnt in my life as a speaker from his messages, and indeed which many others I'm sure have learnt. For the tributes keep pouring in for this great man, who I'm sure you'll all agree 20 or 30 minutes will not suffice in explaining how much service he gave towards the religion of Islam. And indeed you find that without a shadow of doubt, the hadith of our Holy Prophet comes to mind when he states that nothing can compensate for the loss of a scholar in a community. As in, there is no way that you can buy a new scholar now who can compensate for the loss of somebody like Murtaza Laka. There is no way that you can compensate in producing a book even about his life. For there are too many stories which a book cannot even write, and words cannot justify just how great a personality this man was. Yet indeed you find that rightly he is called the Muallim, and the idea that he is known as the teacher, for the fact that he taught many around the world in many different languages. I only understood him in the English language, yet I'm sure many of you who spoke Gujarati would have understood him, and indeed in other languages he was able to serve Ahlul Bayt. And that's why you find the teacher occupies such a prominent position. Imam al-Ghazali used to state that treat your knowledge like you treat your wealth. With your wealth, you earn wealth, and then you save your wealth, and then you better yourself with your wealth, and then you distribute your wealth. He said, likewise with your knowledge, earn knowledge, then save that knowledge, then better yourself with the knowledge, and then be generous in spreading the knowledge. And truly he was a man who was titled the Muallim because of the fact that he was a master for all of us. As Amir al-Mu'minin used to state, a person who teaches you one letter has become a master. And in reality, the title that should be given to him is not Muallim Murtaza Laka, but Master Murtaza Laka. For the fact that he's a master in the way he left behind a legacy in this world. A few salient points I thought I'll take before going into understanding what he stood for. The first of these points was that this man was not just a scholar of the religion of Islam, but was also a scholar in the legal field. And many of us know him as Barrister Murtaza Laka. And not just a normal barrister, a person who dedicated many years towards the legal field. That even until today, in his funeral, there weren't just Muslims who had attended. From the news that I heard, there were prominent personalities from the legal world who had attended, who used to know him as Laka, from the amount of great work that he had done in the legal world. And truly he left a message behind in which way? In that he wasn't a dropout, and that's why he became a speaker of Ahlul Bayt. But rather he was a person who already had a profession. He already had a skill. He already had a degree before he served Ahlul Bayt. There are some who may be dropouts and then decide to come entering the field of Islam. Meaning that they weren't able to be educated properly, their grades weren't high enough, and so they became speakers. But you find with him that no, his secular education was outstanding. His results were outstanding. Muhsin Daramsi from Stanmore, currently residing, himself tells us the story that when they were together in school, it was a competition as to who would come first between the two of them. And he said Murtaza would always win. And he said on top of that, not only would he win, I remember a time when the teacher used the cane against all of us, but he'd get away with it because of his high grades. It went to show you that this man could have easily went and only done law, and he would have become a successful lawyer, would have come to the mosque, would have heard lectures, would have drank his cup of tea, would have broken his iftar, and would have gone home. Yet the man decided that no, I can balance my skills in my life. I can be a barrister. I can give towards the legal field. I can live in this world like I'm going to live in it forever. But I can plan for the hereafter as if it was going to come tomorrow. Didn't Imam say that a great man is one who lives in this world as if he's going to live in it forever? But he plans for the hereafter as if it's going to come tomorrow. In terms of planning for this world, he planned. He got his law degree. He entered the bar. He got the qualifications. He was a renowned barrister. But at the same time, you knew in Muharram, you would hear the voice of Murtaza Laka around the world. You knew in the holy month of Ramadan, you would hear the voice of Murtaza Laka around the world. You knew in the nights of Fatima al-Zahra, you would hear the voice of Murtaza Laka only recently. He gave an outstanding explanation of the sermon of Bibi Fatima and Fadak. You knew that if there was a wilada which was available and you needed a man to speak, you could phone him and he would be ready to speak. You knew that if you needed a servant in the community on a shahada, he was able to come forward and speak. It's not easy to balance this world and the hereafter, without a doubt. It's the hardest skill to achieve. It's the hardest attribute to have. There are many who have this world but don't have the hereafter. There are many who are Muslims but have not dedicated to Islam. What Murtaza Laka is a shining light that in terms of the secular world, you could be the best. And in terms of public speaking and serving Ahlul Bayt, you can be the best as well. He balanced both of the two together. And on the first level, that's the first lesson we learn from him. On the second level, his akhlaq was outstanding. Without a shadow of doubt. That truly when our Prophet said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, I have come not to allow you all to learn stats and figures and sermons and verses. I have come to perfect the morals of mankind. I want between you to be there a brotherly love, a forgiving nature between the two of you, between the three of you, between the community, between the ummah. Many of us Muslims find it hard to forgive each other in this community and in other communities. Many of us still have grudges between each other. Fathers and sons, brothers, sisters, even mothers and their children. Yet you find that there is a need for morals to be established between us, for there to be warmth, humility and compassion. With a man like him, I saw in my own eyes akhlaq of the highest. And the reason I say akhlaq of the highest is because when you're as qualified as him, the touch of arrogance can affect you. You're really highly qualified. And you may look around you and see people who aren't as qualified. Your English, nobody can come near. And you see around you there are people whose English can't come near that. Yet the humility of the man is unique. I remember as a young man going to Stanmore Mosque when I was only around 12, 13 years of age. And I remember first hearing him speak with that outstanding English that he had, which really brought pride to you when you said that that's my speaker. But when he came off the minbar and I'm sitting down around my friends and it came to the time to serve the tabarruk, who was it that was serving? It was him. I know very well now, years later, how draining it is to come off the minbar. You are drained, your energy is gone, the pressure is intense. But to come off the minbar and then serve tea with a smile is unique. And he'd come off and he'd serve tea. And in the holy month of Ramadan, I would remember that he would come off and he'd serve the food. And he wouldn't eat. And he'd enjoy serving. It would bring him pleasure. To the extent you felt humbled when he came and gave you water. You felt like getting up and saying to him, how could you give me water? You've just given me 45 minutes worth of knowledge. I'm the one who should serve you. But on the contrary, the smile with that akhlaq, number one. Number two, when I first started lecturing, and amongst my first lectures at Stanmore Mosque, I remember him. From where I'm sitting down here, he was sitting over there. And when I'd be talking, at every point that I would look at him in the eyes, he'd nod at my point. I knew that he knew my point. I didn't have to repeat a point to a man like him. The man was a man of knowledge. Yet it was an encouragement from a man who's experienced towards a man who's still young. He could have easily looked at me and an ego could have got to him. I'm not going to nod at this person's points. He's much younger than me. It's hard for me to accept that he may have that knowledge. But a man like him is humble. A man like him doesn't chase that. He chases the service of Ahlul Bayt. Literally every moment that my eyes would turn towards his eyes, I'd see him nodding at my point. And only the last time that I saw him a few months ago, at a janazah in Stanmore, he saw me and he shook my hand. And I told him, may Allah continue to allow you to serve Ahlul Bayt. And he replied to me, said, Ammar, every time that I see you lecturing, I learn something new from your majalis which I myself did not know. And I looked at him and I said to him, but you are a man who's recited years more than me for Ahlul Bayt. He said, it doesn't matter. There is no harm if someone older tells someone younger that truly what you're giving me, even I didn't know, and all these years I've been reciting. Do you witness akhlaq like that? There are certain people, however much they've learned from you, they'll never admit it to you. They'll never say to you, thank you for your knowledge. They will keep it inside that yes, we've learned, but it's hard for us to say. But when a man comes to you of that reputation, who's lectured around the world and says to you, thank you for your majalis, what type of akhlaq do you witness and how rare is that akhlaq? And really when you look at his children, you witness the same akhlaq as there. Compassion, eloquence, articulate, with an etiquette so that when they speak to you with honor. That's number two. Number three, the ink of the scholar is greater than the blood of the martyr. Murtazalaka may be now under the ground, but the fact that he left behind books means every time a person reads a line of his book, his bank account on the day of judgment continues to rise. And the books that he left behind, one was theological, one was spiritual. It showed you his own character, that in theology he could answer you anything. But likewise in spirituality, his spirituality was high. Mafatih al-Jinan of Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi is such a renowned work. Yet who was it that undertook the task to go and translate it? I speak Arabic, yet I haven't translated the work. And his language, his first language, not Arabic, yet he took it upon himself to go and translate Mafatih al-Jinan. And now you look at it, it's available there in the corner in the bookshop. You look at it there, you find an outstanding translation of the du'as of Al Muhammad. Every time now you recite a du'a from Mafatih al-Jinan, recite a Surah Al-Fatiha for this man. Every time you recite a du'a from there, the thawab increases for this man and his legacy. But not only that, a book before that which he had worked on the translation of, was the book known as the 12th Imam. That book is with us until today. That book was from where I gave my first majalis on the 12th Imam by using his references. And I'll never forget one story within that book when Allama al-Hilli was wondering about the hadith which said, the tear the size of the wing of a fly for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein can cure sins the size of the ocean. Imam al-Baqir has a hadith where he says, the tear the size of the wing of a fly for Imam al-Hussein can cure the size of the ocean, can cure sins the size of the ocean. Murtaza Laka was the man who wrote the book to provide us with the story of this Allama al-Hilli incident. That Allama al-Hilli, when he had read this narration, wondered, how can a tear for Imam al-Hussein cure sins the size of the ocean? And he also wondered, if I visit Masjid al-Sahla in Kufa for 40 Tuesdays in a row, is it true that I'll see the Imam? So Allama al-Hilli went for 40 Tuesdays in a row, until on the 40th Tuesday he got to Masjid al-Sahla. When he got there, he stood outside. He wanted to enter, hoping he'll see his Imam. He saw this Arab man. The Arab man looked at him, he said to him, where are you going? He said, I'm going inside Masjid al-Sahla. He said to him, why? He said, I want to meet my Imam, and I have a question to ask him. Is it true the tear the size of the wing of a fly for Imam al-Hussein can cure sins the size of the ocean? I'm wondering, how could a tear do that? So the man said, can I answer that question? He said, no, I prefer my Imam to answer. He said, no, let me answer. He said, okay, go ahead, answer. He said, you know there was a king of the children of Israel, and this king went out with his soldiers to war. He had lost his soldiers. He was now lost. He didn't know where to go. He saw a house. He knocked at the door and an old lady answered. And she said, oh man, who are you? He said, I am the king of your land, but my soldiers have deserted me. So she said to him, come and stay in our house. I live here with my son. Are you hungry? Yes, I am. We only have one animal, but I'll sacrifice that animal because that's all we have and you are our guest. That king promised that one day he'll reward them for what they did to him. Months had passed, there was no reward. The son went to inquire from the king. When he found the king, he said to him, do you remember me and my mother when you were deserted, we helped you? The king said, definitely. I should reward you as well. He asked his advisors, how should I reward this young man and his mother? One said, give land. Another said, give treasure. He said, how unjust all of you are. This man and his mother gave me everything they had. If I am just, I should give everything towards them. He said, oh Allama al-Hilli, if a normal king can be so just that he is willing to give away his whole kingdom because a man gave away one animal, then do you think the King of Kings would not give away all his forgiveness to the man who gave away everything on the 10th of Muharram? Allama al-Hilli began to cry. As he began to cry, he said, the man looked at me and said, oh Allama al-Hilli, tell our Shia that if they visit me for 40 days in a row in Masjid al-Sahla, I will come and see them. He said, I was thinking, who is this saying, tell our Shia? As I looked up, the man had gone. And I realized it was the Imam of my time. When I first quoted this story, it was from Murtaza Laka's book, The 12th Imam. And that book, which is with us until today, each one of us should go and read it. If you want to build a relationship with your Imam, read that book. Read the stories of incidents where the Imam has helped. Maybe you're going through trouble in your life. Have you asked Allah through the Imam? Maybe you're going through grief. Maybe you're worried about your child's upbringing. Have you asked Allah through your Imam? That book, Murtaza Laka, opened up the doors for a relationship between the people and the Imam, and left a legacy for us. That ask yourself, which book have you written? Or which book have you contributed to? Or which book have you donated to? Or how many books have you read? On the third level, you found he left behind those skills. And finally, on the fourth level, it was Murtaza Laka who originated and was one of the originators of English majalis. At a time when it wasn't accepted, there were people, naturally some are quite immature and illiterate, there were people who came forward and said that how dare English come up on the minbar. I'm sure those same people have realized the great amount of knowledge that has now come out from there. But those people who came forward and said, how dare English come out on the minbar, they said there are traditional languages that should be spoken. And without a doubt, we all have to protect our traditional languages. The languages we spoke at home, should all be protected, for these are languages which are part of our culture. But that doesn't deny any medium where Ahlul Bayt are represented is a good medium. If today it's in English, tomorrow it may be in Spanish, the next year maybe in German, the next year maybe in African, any medium to continue the message of Ahlul Bayt is a good medium. If it helps that generation, then it should continue. It's not about each person having their own. It was Murtaza Laka who began English majalis in Bombay, where he would recite every year. And he has his famous lectures on the biography of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. Biography of each Imam recited in Bombay. That every person who I have met from Bombay, or the invites I have received from Bombay, always used to say to me that it was Murtaza Laka who used to say, tell Syed Ammar to come to Bombay. It was his recommendation, and on top of that they used to say it was him who originated English in a country which is extremely traditional, India. They have their traditions. It was difficult at the beginning. It's when you saw Dr. Zakir Naik having a crowd of over 100,000 in English, and a speaker in another language just about getting 10, then you found out that English was the most powerful language in that country. Yet, whereas you find in our own country, you have people here within this country who say, no, we should have other languages. You find in India, where the origin of the languages, the Indian Shia community said, speak in English. Why? Number one, everybody in the country speaks it. But number two, our Iranian brothers can come to the mosque and listen. Our Iraqi brothers can come. The Lebanese, there's only a handful of them living there. They're all businessmen. But they can come rather than waiting for a language which they don't understand. And it was Murtaza Laka who would tirelessly go to these communities and recite for these communities and stand up and recite those majalis in English, and truly an example for all of us in the world today. And that's why this dedication goes towards this man. We remember him and remember that he was an azadar of Imam al-Hussein, which is more important than anything else in this world. Any man who tries his hardest to spread the message of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is a man who leaves a legacy behind in this world. And normally I don't recite this part of the Masa'ib except on the 10th of Muharram in the morning. Every year on the 10th of Muharram in the morning when I recite the Maqtal, wherever I'm reciting, I recite the final moments of the life of Imam al-Hussein. And I don't recite it any other time in the year. But out of dedication towards his family and out of a request from the family, I will recite the final moments of the life of Imam al-Hussein. For a man who served Imam al-Hussein, and for a man whose blood was for Imam al-Hussein, and whose energy was for Imam al-Hussein. When Abu Abdullah al-Hussein returned to the tent after the 6-month-old baby had been killed, he returned back towards the tents of his companions. He went towards the tents of the family of Aqil, but he found none of the family of Aqil. He went towards the tents of the family of Ja'far, and he found none of the family of Ja'far. He went towards the tents of his companions, but he saw none of his companions. He then went out on the battlefield in Karbala, and he came out and he said, Ya Habib ibn Madahir, wa ya Muslim ibn Awsaja, wa ya Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, ya Abtal al-Safa, wa ya Fursan al-Hayja, ma li unadikum fala tujibun, wa ad'ukum fala tasma'un, وأنتم نيام أرجوكم تنتبهون فهذه نساء للرسول فقد علاهن من بعدكم النحول فقوموا عن نومتكم أيها الكرام وادفعوا عن آل الرسول الطغاة اللئام أو حبيب بن مظاهر أو مسلم بن عوسجة أو حر بن يزيد الرياحي. O valiant warriors and O brave lions, why is it that I call you but you do not answer me? Why is it that I plead for you and you do not hear me? And you are asleep, I urge you to wake up, for I see them about to attack the granddaughters of Rasulullah, and there is no one there to come and help them and no one there to come and protect them. When he entered the tent, Imam al-Hussein walked towards the tent. When he entered, he saw his sister Sayyida Zainab, and he saw his sister Kulthum, and he saw all the other children of Al-Muhammad. The narration states that he said to his sister Sayyida Zainab, provide me with my sword so I may go out and defend myself. She came and she gave him the sword. She looked at him and she said, Oh Aba Abdullah, have you ever seen a sister who comes and gives a sword towards her brother in his final moments? He said to her, oh my dear sister Zainab, do not say this about yourself. I know how warm and I know how compassionate you are. All of a sudden a voice came out, give me a sword and give me a stick so I may defend my father. It was the voice of Imam Zainul Abidin. Imam al-Hussein said to him, why do you want a sword and why do you want a stick? He said, I want a stick so I may stand up, and I want a sword so I can defend you now on the battlefield. Imam al-Hussein looked at him and he said, oh Zainul Abidin, you are the proof of Allah on earth. Remain sitting in the tent. Who is there to protect the orphans after I die? Who is there to protect the children of Ahlul Bayt after I die? أو سكينة أو رقية أو كلثوم أو سيدة زينب أو رملة أو ليلى, all of you come towards your Imam and come and pledge your allegiance to him. As Imam was leaving the tent, the narration states to us, his sister Sayyida Zainab called out, Mahlan, Mahlan, ya ibn Zahra. Wait, oh son of Zahra. He said to her when he looked at her, oh Zainab, when our mother Fatima Zahra was dying, she whispered something in your ear. Whenever I asked you, what is it? You always said to me, Aba Abdullah, there will be a day when I tell you what it is. Oh my sister Zainab, tell me what it is. She said, Ya Aba Abdullah, when my mother Fatima was dying, she said to me, Aba Abdullah will one day be alone on a battlefield. Before he leaves, I want you to give him this shirt so that it covers his body. And I want you to kiss him on his neck, and kiss him on his chest, and kiss him on his head. I wonder why she told her to kiss him on the neck and the chest and the head. So she came and she kissed Imam al-Hussein on his neck and on his chest, on his head. She then bid him farewell. Imam went towards the opposition. He called out, do you not know who I am? I am the son of Muhammad al-Mustafa. I am the son of Ali al-Murtada. I am the son of Fatima al-Zahra. I am the son of Khadijah al-Kubra. I am the son of Ja'far al-Tayyar. I am the son of Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib. They replied to him, we know who you are, but we are going to kill you out of revenge for your father Ali ibn Abi Talib. When Imam al-Hussein came out, the narration states he fought valiantly and he managed to kill all those who came towards him. He then rode with his horse towards the river Furat. He got near the river Furat. He was about to take from the water of the Furat, but he noticed that his horse was thirsty. So he said to the horse, oh horse, you drink before I drink. Have you ever seen mercy like that? Oh horse, you drink before I drink. As the horse was about to drink, it's as if the horse knew that Imam al-Hussein was thirstier than the horse. The horse wouldn't drink. At this moment, Shimr called out, Hussein, you drink from the water while your ladies are being attacked. Imam al-Hussein ran back towards the tent. He noticed that it was only a lie and they wanted to prevent him from drinking the water. When he entered the tent, he bid them all farewell. As he was leaving, a 4-year-old came running out. She said, oh my father, I want you to tap my head before you go out. He came and he embraced her. Then as he was leaving, another young girl came out. It was Sukaina, the daughter of Imam al-Hussein. She said to him, oh father, do you remember when Hamida, the daughter of Muslim bin Aqil, was killed? You patted her on her head because she was an orphan. Oh father, I want you to pat me on my head as well. Imam al-Hussein embraced her. He then went out on the battlefield. He was fighting valiantly until
until Harmala bin Kahil struck him with an arrow on his chest. He fell down from his horse. They began to strike Imam al-Hussein one by one. A man came with a bar and struck him on his head. Another came with a sword and struck him on his chest. They began to shower their arrows on the body of Imam al-Hussein. One narration states Imam al-Hussein looked like a hedgehog lying on the ground, but nobody dared to come and behead Imam al-Hussein. Sayyidah Zainab at this moment called out, "Oh Ammar ibn Sa'ad, how dare you leave my brother in this state? How dare you allow your soldiers to attack him one by one?" Ammar ibn Sa'ad then called out, "Do not leave the man in this state. Go and finish him off." One after another they approached the body of Imam al-Hussein. But whenever they'd come to strike him, they would see the light shining from the face of the Imam. So they would leave the Imam and they would leave him lying there on the ground until shimmer came towards the body of Imam al-Hussein. And he struck the Imam 12 times on his neck. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless and provide mercy for the soul of Murtaza Alaka and allow his family to have patience in these difficult times and allow us to follow his unique example in serving the message of Muhammad and al-Muhammad. Ya Allah, allow him to be amongst those who receives the intercession of Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. And allow us to all be amongst those who receive his intercession. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of the marhumeen of the family and allow them to continue in their service of Ahlul Bayt. Inshallah, next Thursday we have a special guest, Brother Adam Deen, who is one of the renowned speakers from around the Muslim world, who has appeared on many television shows and indeed on radio and on the internet. His lectures are there. He will be giving a lecture on how to reply to Richard Dawkins' God's delusion and a reply to atheist arguments about God. So he will be coming and joining the community inshallah next week. Let's pray for the Hajj Murtaza Alaka with the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before the loudest of your salawat.